So security comes over, and believe it or not, they go to throw me out.
Hi, welcome to the guest list with Patrick Hicks. Today I am joined by music journalist, podcaster, the rock star whisperer herself, Allison Hagendorf. Thank you so much for being here.
I am honored to be here with you, Patrick. You know, I'm just a big fan of you as a storyteller, as a historian, and just as you as a person. I feel like you and I connect because we just both share
Yeah.
this passion for music.
Yes, not a lot of people have the same level of obsession with music as I do, but you are definitely one of them, if not more so. When did that start for you? How early on did you get this music obsession?
From birth, like I remember just, my parents just playing music. I was raised on like the oldies and Motown and like
Yeah.
50s rock and roll, and I loved it. And I also loved like learning about it early on. Like I loved hearing stories from my parents. So it's always been a part of me. And then I was a kid in the 80s, so my sisters would like introduce, I have two older sisters, that whole sibling
Mm.
thing. I got the music from
Oh,
them. But then in the early 90s, the alternative rock and grunge movement, that's when I became absolutely obsessed. And that's when I knew
yeah.
I had to music my life.
Was it MTV that introduced you to Nirvana? Yeah.
So I was at a bat mitzvah. I literally remember this. And that's when Smells Like Teen Spirit came on. And I just will never forget that day. I was like, what is this sound? What is this feeling that I have, And I remember going up to the DJ and asking him, he's like, oh, it's this new band. It's called Nirvana. It just came out. And then I had my parents drop me off at Tower Records the next day, and I just was a sponge. I just tried to
Yeah.
learn everything I could. And then I realized like there was a movement happening, like, out of Seattle, and I became obsessed with Pearl Jam and Soundgarden and Alice in Chains and
Yeah.
Meat, just so many cool things. And that's when it kicked off for me.
So it was a bat mitzvah DJ that started you on this path?
Yes. I mean, how
That's
sick
so
is
funny.
that? Yeah, I love it.
What was the reaction at the bat mitzvah? Like were all the kids into it?
They were because at
Yeah.
this time it was like, it was early 92,
Mhm.
so we were in the suburbs. So of course the album had been out for a couple months, but I'm a dancer, so I was still doing like Janet Jackson and like Boys to
Yeah.
Men, like En Vogue and SWV, and like I loved all that stuff. So we were like dancing to all that kind of stuff, which was mainstream at the time. And then he kind of mixed this in. And I just started jumping and moshing. Like before I didn't know what that was. That was like
Right.
an involuntary response. And the
Yeah.
other kids were too. Like I was definitely like wrangling kids with like flailing limbs, and they were into it too, but I think I was the most into it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
like I don't know if they went to Tower Records the next day, but I did. But I just remember that feeling. It was interesting as a dancer, I was used to moving my body to music, but it was always in an organized way, like a choreographed, routine. But this way was a much more visceral, primal response to the music. And I loved that feeling. I was letting go. Like I lost
Yeah.
myself in it, it was a different kind of expression. Yeah.
So let's talk about maybe a song that reminds you of your childhood. And that could be before that point, after, it could be that song, but something that reminds you of childhood.
I think childhood's going to have to be 80s pop music because
Sure.
what a time that was, with like, Michael Jackson and Cyndi Lauper and, Wham, but Madonna, Madonna
Mhm.
was really it for me. I think
Really?
Madonna sort of my first example of being a little girl who saw a woman being really like fierce and outspoken. And I remember thinking she just was so badass. Like she was very rock and roll to me. She was punk rock. It was more
Yeah.
like a punk rock. It was more of like a punk
Oh.
rock ethos. But that whole debut album, which I have to give my older sister credit for, she was the one who turned me on to Madonna. And yeah, I loved all of Madonna, but Burning Up in particular was definitely more of her. guitar forward songs, more of a
Yeah.
raw vocal. It was sort of like the most rock Madonna was at that time. But to this day, I put that song on playlists. Like, I think Madonna's Burning Up is so great. In fact, when I got to see her recently at her last tour at the Forum in LA, which was absolutely incredible, she came out with a guitar to that song. And
Oh,
I was like
nice.
right in front of her. I had the best seats ever. I was like right in front of her. And she was like, she was rocking that guitar. And I was like, oh my God, I'm having a full circle moment right now. It was
Yeah.
awesome.
I think people don't realize that Madonna came from like a rock background. Like she was a drummer in a band before she was ever a singer. So
She has that DIY ethos. Like
yeah,
she is very rock and roll. She's very punk rock, coming from Michigan to the streets of New York City, doing all the clubs, putting her own tapes together, getting them out. Like she did it all herself.
yeah,
And I mean, that's why she became the biggest star on the planet because she made it happen. She forged her own path.
yeah, for sure. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Rockland County, New York,
Oh, okay.
Rockland. You cannot make this up,
Oh,
but it's
yeah.
like it's 20 miles north of Manhattan. So it's
Okay.
like close enough to the city, but still, it's definitely the suburbs outside of Manhattan.
Speaking of concerts, seeing Madonna, what is a song from a concert experience that stands out to you?
I mean, I have probably seen, I mean, thousands upon thousands of shows. I mean,
Yeah,
this is
gonna
this
be
has been
tough.
my world since I mean, my first show was actually seeing Green Day on their Dookie tour.
Oh, that was
Um,
your first ever show?
yeah,
That's
I was
awesome.
probably like 14, um, and just seeing a band that I already loved live, changed my life. So I could probably pick something from that. But my favorite band to see live, my favorite current band to see live is U2. They
Mm,
really are the greatest. Even if you're not a U2 fan, I urge every music fan to just go to a U2 show just because it's the best of the best production, professionalism. It's 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 like almost religious actually. It's like a
yeah.
religious experience to connect with the fans there. So I have to pick a U2 song. And one of my favorite songs is off of Octung Baby. Um, Acrobat is a deep cut. One of my favorites. And they
Yeah.
they rarely play it. And I got to see them play. I've seen them every time they can come, and seeing U2 play Acrobat live is a sight to be seen.
You're picking some nice deep cuts here.
Yeah.
Never seen you too. I want to. Did you ever
Oh,
see
perfect.
Beer? That's what I really wanted to go to.
So I have a whole other thing about that. When they were coming to the Sphere, I was like, oh my God, I can't wait. Like I've seen U2 a million times. Okay.
Yeah.
I love this band. So I was so excited to go to the Sphere and I went with a bunch of friends and they start the thing. We're at the Sphere. It's U2, and I like jump out of my seat, and I'm like rocking out, I'm dancing, and then like people started screaming at me to sit down, and I was like, "Wait,
Sit down.
what do you mean sit down?" I'm very nice, so like people are coming at me, and I'm like, "What do you mean? Like we're at a concert, like you stand
Yeah.
up." I mean, like so I just was like, keep doing my thing. I'm like, and it escalated, and people all around me were like yelling at me to sit down. And I'm like, what is happening here? So security comes over, and believe it or not, they go to throw me out because I'm standing. I'm like, first of all, I'm 5'2", okay? And I'm dancing and I'm just enjoying a show. And literally, I get like escorted out. And I'm like, this is unacceptable. First of all, the tickets were like a fortune.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm at a rock show. What's happening? So, anyway, it was a horrible experience.
But also
And
kind of cool to be like I was thrown out of a
I
U2 show.
literally almost got thrown out of the Sphere at the U2 show. My husband, Brian, had to like calm everyone down. And it
Yeah.
was fun. And a friend of mine was there. He's like, there's empty seats here. And I like went to those seats, whatever. So it kind of got back to like the band and their team, what happened, and they were horrified
Yeah.
by that experience. So I went back to the Sphere for a
Somebody was
do-over,
having too much fun at our
and
show.
and this time I was like down on the floor where I belonged because I was like in a
Good.
seat. It doesn't work. So I
Yeah.
was like down on the floor, rocking out, and then it was the greatest night of all time. But I love that the band gave me a do-over because it
Yeah,
was
that's
like
amazing.
unacceptable. You have to be able to stand at a rock show.
Yeah. I
That's it.
sometimes at like a stadium show, which I don't go too often, but if I do, and I have a seat, sometimes I do want to sit down, maybe more than other people, but I would never tell the
Like
people
yell at the
standing up
person.
like they're
Right.
doing it wrong. I feel embarrassed to like, you know what, this isn't one of my favorite songs. I'm gonna sit for this one.
Well,
I would
that so
never tell other people to
the
sit.
takeaway was that when you go to the Sphere, it's not necessarily like a U2 show, it's a Vegas
No,
show. So it's
okay.
like not getting like U2 fans necessarily. You're getting just people who are in Vegas and
Yeah.
are on our itinerary and are like, yeah, let's check out a show at the Sphere.
Yeah. They're like Cirque
So
du Soleil, you too.
that's who was behind me. They weren't U2 fans telling me to sit
No.
down. U2 fans would never have told me to sit down. So that was the I wish someone had kind of like given me that heads up. When you go to see the Sphere,
Right.
going to a Vegas show.
What is a song that you associate with a specific activity? And you could be creative in what activity you
Mhm.
choose, but
Yeah. Well, I work out a lot, so I have a lot of like workout music, high adrenaline, kind of hard rock stuff I love. Like I love
yeah.
like Bring the Horizon. I like put all that stuff to work out to.
Hmm.
But I'm going to pick a song. I have, tell me if you feel this way. Sometimes I need like a palate cleanser. It's
Sure.
like a go-to song you put on almost as a reset.
Hmm.
Uh,
Like you don't know what to listen to.
yeah,
You're
like
like, this is always
exactly.
good.
It's
Yeah.
like a home base. It's like a grounding force. And for me, that is Led Zeppelin's Whole Lotta Love because it's just such like a great reset. I would say it's either Zeppelin or like Fleetwood Mac is such a
Okay.
great like Everywhere by Fleetwood Mac. What a great song to just sort of like reset. I'm gonna get in
Yeah.
a good mood. Like here we go.
Led Zeppelin 2 is also one of my favorite albums of all time. I mean, listening to that when I was a kid was a transformational experience. I went to this babysitter when I was a kid from when I was like 6 weeks old to junior high. I had this babysitter. It was a different time in the 80s. My parents like found her in the penny saver and were like, "Well, I don't know, we'll give our infant to this woman, I
Other
guess."
people did. I know. That's how it was.
But I didn't have older siblings, but she had two older sons. They were almost like brothers to me, and one of them like literally sat me down, put headphones on. This is Led Zeppelin 2. And it was like I've never heard anything like this. All right, what is a song that gets you emotional?
I mean, The Cure. How can you like not hear The Cure and like bawl? When I want to be down and like introspective, like I put on like The Cure. But I also feel that way about Jeff Buckley and,
Hmm. Yeah.
A Perfect Circle. Just really moody, kind of devastating. Um, but I
Yeah.
put on like I would say like A Letter to Elise by The Cure.
Hmm.
It's just wow.
Yeah. Beautiful.
I put that on a lot of times if I'm driving home from somewhere at night and I just kind of want to get into a zone. Like A
Yeah.
Letter to by The Cure is just like, wow. It's also so hard to answer because there's so many. But
Yeah.
Three Libras by A Perfect Circle is a song I put on often just
Hmm.
to wow, what a gorgeous song. Like when I had Maynard on my show and it was totally like a non sequitur, had nothing to do with what we were talking about. And I just was like,
Yeah.
can we talk about Three Libras? Like I just love that song so much. Like I'm such a dork about it. It's such an emotional, gorgeous, gorgeous song.
I mean, you are an amazing interviewer. I have interviewed a couple people that have meant a lot to me. Like Tom Morello was one that I got to talk to for a little bit. And I don't know how you hold back. I'm like Chris Farley in those old SNL sketches. And I'm
I
just like,
remember,
remember when
remember
you did Bulls on
Beatles.
Parade? That was awesome. Like, I don't know how you wouldn't just do that all the time. Like, remember when you wrote Three Libras? Like, this is
Yeah.
amazing.
I was
Uh,
a little bit Chris Farley in the Three Libras Maynard question, but yeah, no, I think when I sit down in my interviews, I really see the guest as the human behind the artistry. So like
yeah.
really trying to like get to the person. Although of everyone I've ever hung out with or met, I really was like least chill with Chris Cornell. I love Chris. Um, rest in peace. And I got
Yeah.
to hang with him quite a bit right before his passing
Yeah.
because he and I collaborated on when I was the head of Rocket Spotify. We collaborated on the This Is Chris Cornell playlist together. Um, And, just being out to dinner with him, I was like totally normal, but in my head at times I kept kind of going into an out of body, like this is Chris Cornell. Also, you
Yeah.
have to remember, like when I first got into all of these bands, I was like prepubescent. I was like in that
Right.
hormonal, and they were all gorgeous. Like it
I
was
mean,
strange,
Chris Cornell is a great looking man. Yeah.
objectively magnificent. Like they were all beautiful. Like Eddie Vedder is gorgeous. Kurt Cobain was gorgeous. Lane Staley. Like they were all like beautiful men. So there was also that
Yeah.
element to it where I genuinely had a crush on Chris Cornell.
Yeah.
So yeah. So like to your point, there's moments where I go a little out of body, and in my brain I'm like, take a breath and get it together.
Do you remember the first like kind of like idol that you got to interview?
Ay, ay, ay. Well, my first interview of all time was Wayne Coyne from the Flaming Lips. That was like
Oh,
a heavy first
starting
interview.
out strong.
I was like, I was like very intimidated, but then I like switched gears in my brain, and he was the coolest and he was so wonderful. So that was great. But I guess early in my career, Scott Weiland, was a really big one for
Yeah.
me. Because I was too young to like during the whole grunge period, which I love in the early 90s is like my favorite. I was really too young to have interviewed any of those people. And,
Yeah.
so Scott Weiland was probably one of my earliest interviews of someone from that era.
Yeah.
Um, and even Billy Corgan, who now is a friend of mine, but the first time I interviewed him, I was like out of body, Tom Morello. I mean, all these people. But then even
Yeah.
like other like Nile Rodgers, like oh my God. I interviewed
Legends.
Brian
Yeah.
May and Roger Taylor of Queen. I think for me that was my most. And I'm
Wow.
sorry, Ringo Starr is like of all time.
I
I'm
couldn't
like
even imagine.
I'm laughing because I interviewed Ringo Starr in person, and I knew we had like 20 minutes, and
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God. Like that's a daunting task to have like you have 20 minutes to sit with a Beatle. Go.
Yeah. Where would you even start?
Right. I mean, it was pretty wild and he was unbelievable, but that was
Yeah.
definitely a like otherworldly experience.
How did you get into interviewing?
Growing up from the MTV generation, well, it actually started with seeing American Bandstand reruns. My mother
Oh,
introduced me to it because she loved American Bandstand. And I remember
yeah.
her showing it to me, and I saw Dick Clark. And I remember being like, that's what I want to do. Like the way that
Really?
he was introducing music to the
Hmm.
masses and how he was the one interviewing the artists and like kind of being this connector. And that's when I was like, I want to do that. And then it was the
Yeah.
MTV generation, and Matt Pinfield was the best.
Yeah.
His rapport with the artists, the trust and respect he had from them. He was just the greatest interviewer, so
Yeah.
knowledgeable. And I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. Which, by the way, I became Matt Pinfield's assistant. I like
Yeah.
found Matt and like created this position to be Matt. I've always wanted to be like the female Matt Pinfield. So I've always loved interviewing because I love storytelling and I love hearing it from the source. And I really love celebrating the human behind the artist, celebrating the ordinary within the extraordinary and finding the vulnerability in these larger than life icons who are really just people who love music, the way
Yeah.
that we do. So I love that. I love being able to hear and feel that vulnerability from all these people that I respect so much.
And didn't you host a New Year's Eve countdown one time?
Yes, I was the official host of Times Square New Year's Eve for 7 years.
Oh,
It was
okay. More than one time.
it was like my full Dick Clark moment. It
Yeah.
was
Yeah,
like,
you literally are the modern Dick Clark and Field
thank you.
combined. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I was on a mission and yeah, a lot of full circle moments.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, speaking of which, what is a song that you associate with a milestone in your life?
I think that's going to have to be Nirvana, something from Nirvana's Nevermind, because that was the album that put me on this path, this
Right.
love of alternative rock, and just like feeling a way about music that I knew that it was my calling. And
Yeah,
of course, like Smells Like Teen Spirit was the first song I heard. But I think if I were to like, what was the song I kept going back to at that time? It wasn't Smell Like Teen Spirit 'cause it was on the radio so much, but I think it was
of
like
course.
maybe like Lithium, like
Lithium. That was mine. That was mine
Lithium was
too.
it, right? I
Yeah.
mean, come on. I feel like that Nirvana's Lithium.
I mean, that whole record is amazing, but
Yeah,
when I was a kid, I felt like, it was a big single, but it wasn't Smells Like Teen Spirit. So I was like, I'm cool. Lithium is my favorite song.
totally. Exactly. Like it was still a single, but it wasn't as monumental and
Yeah.
and mainstream as Smell Like Teen Spirit. But I love that Lithium was yours too. That's great.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you to that bat mitzvah DJ. He really
I know.
did a lot. So, what is a song with some of your favorite lyrics? Are you lyrics or music, like more, if you had to pick one?
I'm vocals,
Okay.
so kind of both because I'm vocal, melody, and lyrics
Okay.
come together. I'm all about singers. Like I
Yeah.
love vocalists. I love front men and women.
Yeah.
Um, but I think like having kids, I've gotten more appreciative of songwriting and the simplicity and the storytelling of songs. Whereas where I'm younger, it's a feeling. You want to feel a certain way. Tom Petty is one of my favorite songwriters. If you just go and like listen to his music, his ability to tell stories and also make you feel with just the simplicity of his lyrics, like a song like Wildflowers
Oh,
is just
God, I love
such
that
a
song. Yeah.
beautiful song,
Hmm.
become a family song with my boys. So my boys, whenever they would cry, I would put on Wildflowers and they would stop crying just for the duration of the song. And it became this magical reset. In fact, we have Wildflowers, the lyrics printed out in my son Cole's room. That's how much we all love that song. So for me,
Wow.
that whole album, the whole Wildflowers album is
You're right. It's
phenomenal,
amazing.
start to
But
finish. But
that,
Wildflowers is just, it's a gem.
that's one of those songs where I feel like that should be like a new American standard. Like, I don't think we really
Yes.
have standards anymore, but like any cover I've ever heard of that song, like Miley Cyrus does a great cover of that song. And it's like, this is just such a classic song that it should be like a song everybody knows. And I don't know if it is like as well known as some of his other songs, but that one is just like
I
perfect.
agree. I feel the exact same way as you do about that song. I think
Yeah,
that is special.
that's a great choice. What is a song that you think people would be surprised to find out that you love?
So everyone knows I love rock. It's my forte, it's my expertise, and it's what I love the most. But I really love electronic music and I really love dance music. And I love really kind of creative artistic stuff. And I love the artist Flume.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Thanks.
I love Flume. Like one year, and Spotify tells you I was like the top 1% of listeners of Flume. Like I love Flume so much that the song You and Me was actually my wedding song.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah, like that song You and Me. I think that Flume to me is actually closer to like an alternative artist because it's just
Yeah.
really artful. It's ambient, it's moody. It's just so interesting to me. But I love Flume. So I
Yeah,
think that's
that's a great one.
kind of random, I
As
guess.
as somebody who used to work at Spotify, do the artists know like who's in their 1%? Like, do they get an email like we get an email that's like, here are your top 1% of fans?
Um, it's not that specific because there's
Hmm.
like privacy and confidentiality, but they
Oh,
can
I guess that's
target
true.
the profiles in like certain cities. So if they wanted to like appeal to like super fans in a certain city, like
Yeah.
they can get like message out to them. But I don't think they
Okay.
know. They don't know
Yeah.
like oh, Allison Hagendorf was like fluent, you know what I mean?
Mm.
Um,
I do get those emails like your special, tickets because you're a fan, but there's a
yes.
lot of fantasies like an artist would see like, oh my gosh, Patrick Hicks has listened to this song 100 times in a row.
Yeah,
Like, you gotta invite him backstage or something. Like, this is a
I
super,
know.
I guess maybe not.
That would
Uh,
be cool, though.
I also you want to go back to something you said about Chris Cornell, that you collaborated on the This Is Chris Cornell. Do the artists have input on what songs go in that playlist? Or was that
So
special for him?
So Now I don't think they do. A lot of things are a lot more algorithmic now and
Yeah.
stuff. But when I was the head of rock, I really cared about it. So I would
Yeah.
actually contact the artists and their teams to see if they were interested in doing it with me. Otherwise, I was literally just picking it what I think and based on metrics and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I collaborated with a lot of artists on their This Is lists because it's such a personal thing. I would want the
Yeah.
artist to be part of that because it's basically like here's like the songs we're presenting to the world that are from your catalog. So I just
Yeah.
thought the artist should be part of that, and Chris was so into it. He was of all like I would say because I've done it with a bunch of artists. I have to say that he was the most involved.
Really.
Yeah, he
Okay.
really cared. He really cared.
So obviously you make a lot of playlists. We're talking about the This Is playlist. What's a song that somebody put on a playlist for you, or a mixtape or a mix CD that they introduced you to that you fell in love with?
It's tough because I feel like I'm always in the position of like telling other people about
Right.
music, but I would say like in recent times, someone at a friend of mine had introduced me that now this is like in 2017, so this was a while ago now, but I remember someone said there's this new artist and I know you're gonna love him. And his
I
name
love it
is
when people say that.
I know, and his name is Youngblood.
Oh, yeah.
And they could not have been any more correct. And Youngblood became an artist that I became obsessed with early on, and I championed from early on because I knew for a fact that this kid was special in a league of
Yeah.
his own and is a global superstar. He's going to be this kid's going to be making music until he like in his 90s. You know, he's just so special. And when I was at Spotify, we went out to lunch together and we sat down. I got to hear him speak. And that's when I was like, okay, he is a
Yeah.
visionary. He is a
Yeah.
visionary and he just continues to get better and better. So his new album Idols is coming out in June. It's phenomenal. I've heard it.
Hmm.
Have you seen him live?
I have not. No, no.
Okay, you need to see him live because when you see him, you're gonna be like, thank God. Like, thank God. There's like the next generation because
Yeah.
that's what he is. And his new song, Hello, Hello Heaven. It's just he's very old school. It's almost like he's
Yeah.
from another time, but the music is very fresh and current and modern. But I think he's like one of the most important artists of the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's actually at the top of my wife's list of people she wants me to have on this podcast. We both kind of made like our dream lists, like who do you want to get? She's like, you got to get Youngblood. He's like so charming in interviews. He'd
Oh,
be
he's
so
the
great to
best.
talk to. So if you could make
I
that happen,
I can help. I will help with that. Yes, he's
but
amazing.
yeah, I love him. It was Youngblood and Jane Goodall. Those are my wife's top two.
Wait, I
She,
feel like she and I are soulmates because I went to school to study chimp behavior. I
no, you
literally,
didn't. Did you
yes, I
really?
did. I did. I literally graduated pre-vet and pre-med with emphasis in primate behavior.
Oh my gosh, that's so fascinating. What drew you to
Yeah.
that?
Jane Goodall. I mean, literally, just I thought it was like Dick Clark and Jane Goodall. I just thought these were like
Yeah.
two amazing people and just so fascinating. And that's so funny. You please tell your wife that I share that love of
Yeah.
Jane Goodall with her.
She's like obsessed. Like, what kind of music does Jane Goodall listen to? I gotta know. So this is gonna be hard for you, I think. What is a song that you introduced somebody else to, which is kind of like your whole thing? But what's like one that you're really proud of? Like, I turned somebody onto this.
I think that I make it my mission that people know about Jeff Buckley because I think he is one of the great vocalists of all time, one of the
Yeah.
great songwriters of all time. And to think tragically, he only had one studio album is
Hmm.
absolutely mind-blowing. And Grace is that magnificent. So when people don't know who Jeff Buckley is or don't know Grace, I really make it a mission to like make sure they know it.
Good.
Um, and really any song from Grace will do. But Lover You Should Have Come Over is just so
Gorgeous.
magnificent.
Yeah.
And it's a great like mixtape closer. If you want to end a mixtape with just like a song that just you lose yourself in. I mean, that song is just it's
Yeah.
gorgeous.
All right, last one. What is the most recent song that you've fallen in love with?
I'm obsessed with Sleep Token. Obsessed.
Oh, I just saw a video
Absolutely.
about that.
I've been a fan of them from the beginning, big supporter. So their album, Even in Arcadia, which just came out, is #1 in America.
I think that's insane. I love it.
It surpassed Bad Bunny. Do you know what I mean? Like
Right.
this, whether you like the band or not, because they're very polarizing. And the reason why they're polarizing is because they incorporate so many different kinds of music. I mean, it's metal, it's hard rock, but it is R&B, it
Yeah.
is pop, it's gent, it's atmos, it's like it's like everything. And I think
Yeah.
I that's why I love it because it's everything. It's everything I love in a very innovative, unique way. Every song, you have no idea where it's gonna go. And it's just and I love vocals. So it has
Yeah.
that like awesome melodic
Hmm.
R&B-esque vocal, which I love, but it also drives and it's hard hitting. So I mean, this new album, it's gorgeous. It's an experience. It's a journey. You listen to the whole thing, but they have a song called Caramel. That's like a pop song,
Yeah.
and it's so polarizing, and I love it. I absolutely love this band. I can't say enough good things about them. I love when things like we talked about before, wear their influences on their sleeves. We see who they like, but then they do their own thing with it. That's what rock and
Very
roll
much their own thing. Yeah.
that's what rock and roll has always been. It's rock and roll has always been a fusion of a million things. Rock and roll was rhythm and blues and country and all these things doing its own sound and feeling. And it's rock and roll will only evolve by doing more of that, just sort of like incorporating so many different influences into one. I think Sleep Token does a really good job of it.
I mean, I think the fact that they are so polarizing is why they're so exciting. Like, how many bands do we see come through and or bands, artists that are like, yeah, they're fine. They're good. I get
Yeah.
it. Good.
Yeah.
But then you have somebody come along that's like half the people are like, this is my new favorite band, this is like my new personality, and half are like, I don't get this at all. I
It's
hate this.
horrible.
Like,
Yeah.
yes, yes, that's what I want. That's what I want from bands.
But I had Corey Taylor on my show like 2 years ago,
Mm.
and I was like, "Do you know Sleep Token?" Because they were really even less known then. Like now, I feel
Yeah,
like a lot of people know about them, but like I was so interested in to hear if he liked them because of course
yeah,
they have masks and no one
yeah.
knows who they
And the
are.
evolutionary
Of
Slipknot.
course, if 100%. And
Yeah,
he loves them. And I thought that was really cool. It was like, yeah, he kind of got the cosign from Corey Taylor. This is super cool. And they've continued to do it. And seeing them live is awesome. There was like this one night I went back to back. I saw Sleep Token and I saw Måneskin. And
oh
I was
wow.
like, rock is alive and well, it's
Oh,
just it
yeah.
takes different forms and looks different and does its own thing, but like they were both sold out, crazy venues, crazy fans, the electricity in the venue, and I was like, this is the good stuff. That's why live shows are everything to me, because that's when I really get to feel a band or an artist and to know if I like how much I love them or not. Like
Yeah.
hearing the music's the one thing, but seeing them live, that's where I either like commit or not.
All right, let's do a bonus question if you don't mind. So
Okay.
you are on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame committee. This year's class is insanely stacked. It's really great. You have a video on your YouTube channel kind of breaking down some of the biggest albums from the whole class. What about a band that's not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame that you think should be?
There's so many. I mean, Allison Chain should be in there. The Smiths should be in there. Billy Idol should be in there. I mean, there's just so many. So I mean, any of those. I mean, "There Is a Light That Never Goes Out" from the Smiths is literally one of my favorite songs of all time.
Same.
Uh,
Yeah.
I think that was my first time understanding like irony. Like understanding like tongue in cheek or like
Yeah.
I think that was like, I was like, what's going on here? Yeah, this is crazy. I love that song. Eyes Without a Face, Dancing with Myself, Billy Idol. I mean, these are all of these. Um, but kind of
It's
tying,
insane that he's not in.
it's unacceptable. And he'll get there. He'll get there. Sometimes it
Yeah.
takes Soundgarden. It took, they've been up, it's just, everyone just takes longer. I mean, Joe Cocker's first getting in, or like Bad Company first getting in. But I think Allison Chain should be in. And going back to songs that are so emotional, I mean, Nutshell.
Hmm.
Of the most gorgeous, painful songs. That's a good mixtape closer too. I always like to
Yeah.
close an album with just something really emotional. And by the
Yeah.
way, Smashing Pumpkins should be in too. And
Are they
and
eligible yet?
yes, yes.
There. Okay.
Smashing Pumpkins should be in too. And Drown and Mayonnaise and To Forgive are all songs I put on mixtapes and like I mean, there's so many artists
Yeah.
that deserve to be in it. And I think that they'll get there.
Yeah.
Just
Oh,
we
Smashing Pumpkins for sure. We'll get there.
Mhm.
Surprised they were not like first ballot Hall of Famers. They are in
Yeah.
my Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So,
Yeah, they're in mine as well. Yeah. So I feel like I didn't answer your question because it's hard to really pick one.
yeah.
Um,
Well, let's do it if we're thinking of this in terms of a playlist. I think closing out with Nutshell would
that's a
be
good one. Yeah,
yeah.
that's a good one.
All right, well,
That's,
Allison, thank you so much. This was so great. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me.
are you kidding? I could talk with you for hours. I feel like
I know.
you're my people, Patrick. Like we get
Yeah,
each other. We see each other. And you know what? We need to see a show together. Like
I
that's
would
what
be.
we like need to see because that's when I really feel music is
Yeah,
at the show, you know.
and I won't tell you to sit down, even if I have to. I
Thank
won't
you.
tell
Thank
you.
you. I
All right.
appreciate that respect.
You've heard the stories, now hear the songs. Go to wherever you listen to music, Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, and you can listen to today's guest's personalized playlist if you search for The Guest List with Patrick Hicks.